Have you ever thought that you might have some mental blocks in your subconscious? Well, today, if you're game, we're going to go down inside of our subconscious and find some of those and find a way to break through those. If you listen to episode number 81, we talked about another way to identify what's down in that big catch all net, the subconscious that's there, that's affecting our behavior. Go back because it's all about triggers. And today, it's all about mental blocks. We're taking down mental blocks today and we're clearing the road so that you can have some quantum movement in your life. Are you ready to play? It's going to involve some. All right, game on. Years ago, I used to go up to Yellowstone with a group of people, and in the summer, we bike it 50 miles a day, and in the winter, we do snowmobiles on part of it. In the wintertime, one of the things they warn you about is all the bison. Yeah, there's a lot of wildlife up there, but the bison are so big, and the rangers are always saying, stay away from the bison. However, in the wintertime, when you're snowmobiling, they too want the place of least resistance. So they're clogging the road and they're literally laying down on the road to conserve their energy because it's very difficult for them to find something to eat. Well, we are snaking through these bison and they are so close, you can feel them snort on your body. And if you're brave, you can maybe reach out and touch them, but we would just quietly go through. And because they're trying to conserve energy, they're almost harmless. In the summertime, totally different game. You come around the corner, and here is a herd of bison, and they're clogging the whole road. And guess what? Now they're active, now they're feisty, and they're not going to let you through. So, what do? Well, we'd have to wait around, sometimes a half hour, sometimes an hour, for a car to come along. And then we'd tag behind the car, kind of trail behind, and the bison would just kind of wrap behind you. And sometimes we'd try to get off to the side and use the vehicle as a buffer between them and us. But what that taught me is sometimes when we have roadblocks, we got to have help to get through them. So our mind is very similar as we navigate down that road of life. We experience bumps in the road, washouts of all kinds of life's experiences, but everything is documented down in that subconscious. And that subconscious is pretty powerful, whether we know it or not, or aware of it or not. Every single thing that we do, how we act, how we think is being influenced by what's down there. The subconscious really is pretty amazing because all it really wants to do is keep us safe and kind of take orders from us. And of course, keep our body moving and operating, right? But there's different ways that we can find out, okay, what's in my subconscious that really is blocking me from moving forward? Triggers was one of them. And today we're going to talk about what are those mental roadblocks that we have that keep us from going forward. So how can we even identify if we've got some mental roadblocks? Well, one way is just look at the patterns in our life. Life patterns are those predictive behaviors that we do because we've always done them that way. And we've always looked at things a certain way, or we acted a certain way. They're those patterns that many are positive, and some of them just aren't serving us. But a very important thing that we have to remember is these are self-imposed blocks that we have. What? Self-imposed? Yes, it's because we are the ones that are allowing them to remain in our subconscious because of what we've been taught, what we've been shown, and what we believe. Let me give you some examples. Maybe your parents always fought when you're growing up. So you believe that when you get married, that fighting is just going to be expected. Or maybe you didn't put your name in the hat for that promotion because after all, you never get picked, right? So why set yourself up to be disappointed? Or you totally give up on having an organized home because it's just too much effort to yell at your kids and try to get them to help you clean. So it's like, forget it. But all of these situations are based on experiences, either real or imagined. Yeah, I said imagined. You might be saying, oh, wait a minute. Because my kids don't help me clean up, that's not imagined. Yes, but there's a mental block that things can't change. But when we can change the way we think and believe, we can free up the road so that progress can happen. So I want you to look at the different areas of your life. I'm going to mention a couple, and I want you to think right away. Okay, in this area of my life, yeah, I could see I'd like some movement forward, or I've kind of felt stuck. So here's one. What about your relationships? I mean, talk about your family, your friends, those you associate with in either school or education, the community. What in relationships is something that maybe you'd want to change? Think about your health. What about your fitness or nutrition? Are you feeling stuck in one of those areas? What about your career, your education, your finances? What about that area? What in that sphere do you think could benefit from a little jump start? Then we move on to your goals, your passions, your gifts, and your talents. What in that category feels as if you're like knocking your head against the wall? Well, when you look at your different parts of life, I want you to be thinking of just one little area right now as we kind of move through some different explanations of what mental roadblocks can look like. Because I want to give you an invitation at the end to try something crazy awesome. I said you're going to have to play that can have huge impact. And the way you approach life, I want to start out by telling you a real life experience that happened to me. I was always feeling that there's not enough time to get everything done. And my brain had proof of it because I would go to bed and I would be thinking about, oh my gosh, I didn't get this done, that done, or that done. And my brain was just filing that away. So when I would say there's not enough time to get everything done, my subconscious was like, yeah, right. Because remember, you didn't get that done or that done or that. And remember that day? Oh man, that was kind of a wasted day. The subconscious has the data bank of evidence. So whatever I was saying, asking for, it was just regurgitating it out. So I had some mental blocks around thinking that could be any way but that way. And then one day I experienced something that was pretty amazing that helped me kind of turn things around. And I discovered what my mental blocks were. For some of you out there, you might really get into symbolism. There is symbolism out there all over teaching us things. And one of the biggest symbolism things is our subconscious. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to describe to you 6 different roadblocks, but I'm going to use objects in the middle of the road. So I want you to envision that we're going down a road and we see this roadblock. And here's some possible explanations of what that kind of roadblock is indicating. Why are we doing this? Well, you're going to see the little exercise invitation I'm going to get you at the very end. And what are roadblocks after all? They're an invitation for us to see something that's blocking our progress and then get rid of it. So imagine this in your mind if you're just listening to this. Number 1, we go down the road and you see cement barricades. Okay, cement barricades, if you ever see that in your mind's eye, your imagination, that means something that feels just heavy and impassable. It's just, why try? Because I'm never going to get through there. Have you ever had any one of those mental blocks where you feel like, this is just something I'll never be able to budge? Second kind of a mental roadblock could be, imagine a tree that is downed in the middle of the road. Now, this could be downed by nature. It could be there because of an unfortunate event, but that's an obstacle created by others. And the invitation is to find a way to go around it. Third type of a mental block could be represented by a totally dead end road. You see this big sign that says a dead end. Now that's an invitation for us to go, okay, wait, I don't think I'm getting through there. There is no road past that. So this is my invitation to maybe back up, find that fork in the road, and maybe turn and go a different direction. Fourth type of mental roadblock can be represented symbolic of maybe having some dangerous animals like rhinos show up, and they're in the middle of the road. Those could represent fear. And fear is one of those biggest traps that keeps people from being able to move forward. I mean, it could be fear of rejection. It could be fear of failure. It could be fear of success, fear of pain, or the unknown. And if we do nothing, that fear will remain right where it is, blocking our path. And if we don't move beyond the fear, we're never going to progress. Nor will we know that on the other side of the fear was that recognition of what was I afraid of in the first place. The fifth type is like a big obstacle. Like imagine this big elephant in the middle of the road. It's kind of like the elephant in the room that shows up. That can be like lack of motivation. It's just something really obvious. We want things, but we're just not willing to work hard for them. We're just not willing to put in the effort to make some changes. Now, the sixth type could be like sheep blocking the road, totally blocking the road, just tons of them. Now, in many cultures, having sheep means abundance. Could be we could have an abundance of lots of good things, but we have so many good things that we're trying to juggle so much. And obviously, they're not a dangerous animal of any kind, but we just feel stuck because there is so much. So that's kind of fun to talk about 6 symbolic ways that we can look at mental roadblocks. Now, there's a reason I did that, because I'm going to have you try something in just a second. But it's going to require 2 things from you. One is you have to be in a place where you can get still and quiet and close your eyes. And 2, you're going to need some imagination, because imagination is that tool that we use to visualize in your mind, or should I say, see in your mind's eye. Let me tell you something. Imagination is the most powerful nation on earth. It's that creation piece, and it's so invaluable. I would encourage you to develop your imagination. So for this experience, we're going to close our eyes and we're going to envision something that you're seeing in your mind's eye. We're going to envision where you're stuck in your subconscious. Let me show you what that looks like through what I experienced one day. And this is how I learned this tool. I was in a state of meditation, feeling a little bit exasperated because I felt like I never had enough time to get everything done. I would go to bed at night and I'd go, oh my gosh, I didn't get this done or this done. What a fiasco of a day. And of course, my brain was like, yeah, right. I mean, you had 20 things on your list and you only got 3 things done. That wasn't a successful day. Feeling overwhelmed, I just quieted myself and got into a meditation. And I felt impressed to envision myself going down a road, my path of life. And in the distance, I could see some things in the middle of the road. Now, as I came forward a little bit, I could see written on the road was accomplishing everything in the day. And behind that were the cement blocks. 3 of them was something written on them. Now, on the first block, it said overwhelm. In the middle block, it said lack of prioritizing. And on the one on the right, it said dopamine hit. I was scratching my head and go, okay, yeah, recognize the overwhelm. That one's easy. And in my mind's eye, it was like, I need to destroy that overwhelm. Well, all of a sudden I had a mallet in my hand and I am taken after that overwhelmed block like there's no tomorrow. And I was making little chunks out of it, but it wasn't budging. So all of a sudden I had a jackhammer and I was jackhammering that thing and it wasn't budging. What? Oh my gosh, what is wrong? Why can't I take this down? And then I moved on to the second one, prioritizing things. I went, oh, this is the one I need to go through. Oh man, that jackhammer just decimated that one. I was like, okay, when I can prioritize, it gets rid of the overwhelm. Went back to the overwhelm, got rid of that one. Then the dopamine hit I was like, what is that? And then I recognized that I was the queen of sliding in at the last moment. Big, huge projects, I would procrastinate or not get it done till that last moment, but I always got it done. But it was at the sacrifice of sleep. It was a sacrifice of brain cells. And then I'd get it done. And there was this dopamine hit that I got it done. But at what price? And I recognized that if I would prioritize things, I wouldn't have to slide in at the last moment, and that overwhelm wouldn't be there. All right, this was my subconscious conjuring symbolic pictures for me so that I could learn about that false belief I had that there's not enough time in the day, that I can never get everything done. Okay, how cool is that? That was my subconscious helping me out. And if I hadn't gotten quiet that day, if I hadn't gone along for the walk, I wouldn't have been tutored by my subconscious that was telling me, whoa, you got some blocks down here and we can get rid of those. So here's your opportunity to find your mental block. I'm going to have you envision, obviously, if you're driving, you're not going to do this, but sit quiet, maybe do some breath work and just concentrate on your breath work. But lead your mind to say, we're going to go down my road, my path of life. Show me where my obstacles are. Now, as you go down that road, you're going to see an obstacle. It might be one of those 6 that I mentioned. It could be something totally different. It might be something that you don't even recognize. And realize the first thing you see, pay attention to it. Because sometimes you can even go onto the internet and say, what's the symbolism of this item that I saw? I mean, it could be some sort of a floral jungle vine of some sort that will have some symbolism that will mean something for you. Now, if your block doesn't have a word on it, ask your subconscious, label this for me. If this were to have a word on it, what would that word be? Now, a word might appear, you might see one, or it might be, there might be another symbol that will come in. Pay attention to these things. And it may not be the first time you do this, you'll absolutely get clarity on what it is, but pay attention to the symbolism and then ponder it later. The answers are going to come. Be prepared for anything and don't try to sway it. Just let it happen. How big is it? Is it facing you? Is it facing away? Does it have a label on it? But bottom line is you want to find out a way to either go through it or around it. You know, are you going to karate chop it? Are you going to smash it to pieces like I did? If it's an animal, are you going to tame it? Whatever that looks like, go with it. Now look at in your hands. Do you have any tools? And if you were able to label the tool, what do you think that tool is being used for? And once you have that information, then I'm going to give you the next piece of it. And you might be saying, okay, this is really strange. This is really weird. It could seem that way. But the mind has recorded a lot of things in your neural system, and it works really well with symbolism. And when you invite it to open up symbolism to you, it really likes that. And by you breaking down those barriers or going around them or doing that, you are proving to your brain that change can happen. Now, you're obviously doing that metaphysically or in your mind, but the brain doesn't know the difference between real and not real. Oh my gosh, that's probably one of the most powerful pieces of information you can have. That's why athletes visualize. That's why architects write, draw, blueprint, etc. Everything happens up here, and then it can come down into the physical world. Don't doubt what you see. This is just information you're getting, and then you can kind of piece together. So there are 4 C's that I want to give you that now are the second piece of this meditation. Let me tell you, this is super powerful, so I hope you're going to try this. So the 4 C's are clarity, clear, create a new story, and course correction. Okay, how does that all go with this meditation? First of all, clarity. Get clarity on what it is you're working on. So if you went into this visualization saying, there's a piece on my relationship that I want to work on, pick a piece. Don't pick a huge thing. Pick a piece that you can work on. And then clear out the doubt and the fear. In episode number 15, go back to that if fear is in your life, because there's an incredible tool on helping you clear fear. Create a new story. And just the way I had you use your imagination, you're going to create a new story that way. Now, you've all heard, but I'm going to tell it again about the basketball players that they brought together. The psychologists had 3 groups, all equally talented as far as free throws. They divided them into one group who for 2 weeks weren't going to do a thing. One group who were going to come to the gym and practice 1 hour every single day, throwing free throws. And then another group who were going to practice doing free throws 1 hour a day also, but only in their mind. Now, after those 2 weeks, they bring the 3 groups together. And of course, we know the ones that didn't practice didn't win. But who won out of the visualizers, the ones who actually practiced? The visualizers, because they visualized perfect practice. And remember, the mind doesn't know the difference between real and not real. That perfected the way they were doing things. So create the story. If this is a piece of a relationship thing, visualize yourself acting that way, doing those things, having success, your relationship getting stronger, etc. So we had to clarify the piece, clear out the doubt, the fear, the excuses, create a new story. And the next one is course correct. Every day, think about, okay, with this one thing I'm trying to do, to blast through it in my life, where did I fail today? Where was I successful? Oh man, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. Then resolve that tomorrow you're going to do it. Failure is part of this. Failing all the time isn't part of it, but we only fail all the time if we don't stop and evaluate and then course correct. You know, when we get in an airplane and go up, a pilot is course correcting around obstacles and storms constantly, but there's nobody on the flight that's saying, oh my gosh, this is the worst pilot ever, because he's been course correcting the whole time we've been on the flight. That would be ridiculous, right? Of course it would be. And so why do we think that course correction in our own life isn't a valuable piece of maneuvering life? It is. And then when you recognize what it is you haven't done right, you use that imagination again and you visualize how you would do it differently. What are you doing? You're teaching your brain with that neuroplasticity, you're rewiring your brain to do things right, just like the basketball players visualized. And when we have these blocks in our life, sometimes we have to rethink what we're doing. If it feels like we're not getting forward progress, maybe it's like one of those obstacles, that dead end. Sometimes instead of banging our head against the wall going, I'm not making any progress, sometimes we have to back up to that fork in the road, remember, and maybe go a different direction. But we have power to create our lives. And when we take hold of what we want, when we create, when we have clarity, when we clear out doubt and fear, when we create a new story, when we visualize like those basketball players and we course correct, and of course, then we have to do, we just can't stay in our head, right? We got to do, we got to act. But we become, that's how we become, is through that visualization and then that action. This is the cool part of this. Once we identify those roadblocks, that's our invitation to decimate them. This is really powerful, and I hope that this was helpful information. And as always, we are the creators. And if you want help in learning how to create, how to imagine, how to get rid of fear, how to move forward down the road, Level Up Empowering Possibilities is a program you bring right into your home to help you learn the science behind all of this, and done in a really fun, engaging way. We want to help, and we'd love to have you join the Level Up group. Coming in January, you can even join us online for weekly training. Guys, we are creators. We create the life we want to have. And when we have the tools to do it, we quantum create movement in our life. What's in your subconscious? Go down there and find out what those roadblocks are and decimate them. Hey guys, thanks for joining me this week. If there's someone that needs to hear this, pass this video on to them. We'll see you next week. Tally ho.